Hands-On is sponsored in part by Elmer's Products, Inc., manufacturers of a variety of adhesives, arts and crafts, and office products for use at home, school, or business for over 60 years. www.elmers.com. Dixon Ticonderoga. Our colors, their world. www.dixonusa.com.
Learn skills for a whole lifetime of crafting on this season of Hands-On. At school, home, or even in sports, each week we've got craft basics and great projects, each with 5 steps and 5 main ingredients. And every project teaches a new skill that you can use over and over again. Keep basic supplies like scissors, markers, toothpicks, and rulers on hand. And remember, be creative. Okay, it's 3 p.m., you just got home from school, it's too early to start homework, your friends aren't home, and there's nothing to do. Hands-On to the rescue with some great ideas for after school. First, it's a little bit outside and a little bit kitchen and a fun paperweight. Then we've got a new skill for you to learn after school, and that's sewing on a machine. We've got the basics to get you started. Then we've got a great decor project for a party, room decoration, or even outdoors. Paper lanterns are so easy and so fun. Last up, let's take those machine skills and try a new sewing project. So let's get started.
Our first project today is perfect for after school because it's fast and easy. This little pet rock is a hedgehog, and you can make him using basic ingredients that you'll find almost anywhere. Our main ingredients today, we need a rock. You can use any size, something about fist size is pretty good though. Opaque markers, wild rice, a bean, and googly eyes. Our basic ingredients, we need glue, masking tape, a paper clip, pencil, scissors, and that'll do the trick. We're going to use these right here. So our first step in doing our pet rock is to make sure that the bottom of our rock doesn't scrape anything once it's done. And to do that, what I'm going to do is add glue. This is an excellent tacky glue. It'll hold just about anything. And you put it right flat down on top of your felt. And then you can take a pair of scissors, push it in nicely, and just trim away the excess felt. And that way, if you put this on top of a book or a countertop, you don't have to worry about wrecking anything. Okay, there we go, perfect. So now you can see it's nice and soft. So step 2 is that we're going to put the fur onto our hedgehog. And to do that, you have to really like glue and use lots of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line around the rock. And behind this line is where I want the rice to be, and in front is going to be the hedgehog's face. So now we're going to cover this entire spot with lots of glue. And don't be shy about using it. You don't want to use so much that it drips, but the more glue you have on there, the better the rice is going to hold. So I'm just going to squish this all the way around. Now you can see on the table here, I've put the rice into a little bowl so that it's really easy for me now. There we go, just a little bit more. It's easy to just push the rock right down into the rice. And if I lift this up right away, you can see that it's all covered, but I'm going to leave it in there until it's good and dry. And that way, all my rice is going to stick to the glue and be really secure. So while that's drying, we're going to move on, and we have to make the hedgehog's ears. And to do that, I'm just going to take a little scrap of felt that I had, and I'm going to put a quarter on it. I'm going to trace the quarter. And you can see the quarter's a little bit off of the edge of the felt so that the bottom edge of my ear is flat. I'm trace one at this end too. There we go. We can cut those out. Just trim right around. And what we're going to do is try to build a little fold into the ear. And to do that, we can just put a little bit of glue in the middle, fold the ear in half, and then use a paper clip to hold it together while it dries. So we're going to set that aside as well. And then we're going to work on the nose for the hedgehog. Now the nose is just a bean, and I've attached it to my work surface here using a piece of masking tape, and that way it holds it in place easily so that I can paint it with the opaque marker. These markers are really good. You can't see any of the bean color once you're done. It's nice and solid black. You'll want to give this a minute to dry too before you pick it up, or else you'll have messy fingers. There we go. So we're going to go ahead over here. I've got another hedgehog started, and you can see it's really fun because depending on the shape of your rock, your little hedgehogs are going to be in different positions. So this one's rices all along it, has the felt on the bottom. The next step is to do eyes. You can do your eyes two different ways. One way is you can draw a white circle with an opaque marker and put a little black dot in the middle, and that will give it its pupil. Or you can just use these fun little googly eyes and some tacky tape to stick them on. A little bit like that. There we go. And then our bean nose, I have another one pre-painted over here. Again, it's just a little bit of glue on there. Will hold your nose in place. He's looking pretty cute, isn't he? Last step is to attach his ears. These ones I had being held together by the paper clip till they dry. I'll fluff them out a little bit. And these ones are the trickiest to get to glue on. So you want to put it on, and you might need to hold it in place a little bit to get it to stay good. So if you just kind of push it right into the rice, there we go. That's pretty good. And then I'll put the other one on. Open it up. There we go. He's just about done. I think the last touch, if you wanted, you could even give the hedgehog a little smile. I think I'm going to do that for this guy because he's looking right up at everybody. And there we go. You really do have a pet rock. Have fun making that after school.
Today's basic skill is machine sewing, and with me is Jill Felix from Viking Sewing Machine Company. Hi Jill, how are you?
Hi, thank you for having me here.
Okay, so you're going to introduce us to our sewing machine. So what do we do to get started?
Well, I like to refer to this as your driver's lesson for your sewing machine. And so today we're just going to look at how you would get the sewing machine set up and the basic parts of the sewing machine.
Okay, great.
So what we have on the side is our plug and our foot control.
Okay.
And then near that is usually going to be your on-off switch. So we're going to switch the sewing
And the light
machine
goes
off.
on?
The light goes on. If we follow across, and if you work in a clockwise manner to get your machine ready, you won't forget things. And it's as easy to sew with a sewing machine as getting ready, getting set, and sewing. So to get ready, we're going to look that we have our bobbin area, we have our presser foot and our presser foot lift. And that lifts our fabric up, and that lifts our presser foot up and down so that it can press against our fabric. We have our bobbin case. That's where our bobbin's going to go when we wind our bobbin. We have our needle, and the way our foot control, our presser foot works, is our foot control, when we press down, it will move our feed dogs fast or slow, depending on how far we put it, how far we press down.
And that pulls the fabric through.
And our feed dogs will then feed the fabric.
Okay.
So that's important to have that presser foot down because that's pressing your fabric against those feed dogs.
Okay.
And then if we follow up, we'll see that we have our tension, our thread tension, and that's automatically set for us.
Okay.
And we'll follow over, and we see that we have our bobbin winder. And I've already put a bobbin on there for us. And we're going to just slide that over, and we're going to wind a bobbin. Your bobbin thread and your top thread should match. You should be using the same thread. Once we get that started, I can clip that off because you don't need that little tail to hold on to anymore. You don't need to always fill your bobbin.
Okay. Just as much as you need.
Just as much as you need, exactly. And then all I'm going to do is cut that off.
So sewing actually is two threads. You have the top thread and the bobbin thread.
And what it is it's a locking thread. As the needle goes down through the plate, it will grab that bobbin thread, and you will have that bobbin thread locked with the top thread.
So let's thread our machine.
Okay, we're getting ready. We're getting set now to sew. So we're going to put our bobbin thread in, and this is a drop-in bobbin. Some bobbins load from the front, but it's the same procedure. You load that. We're going to put it in tension. There's a little slit there that we use, and then we're just going to put the cover back on to hold that bobbin in.
Oh, that's pretty easy.
It's very easy. The top thread is just as easy because on this machine it's marked with 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're just going to go down, we're going to go up. We're going to use our hand wheel to grab that thread in the top. And there we go.
And so you're using this wheel then to move your foot up and down.
I use that to move the needle up and down.
the needle.
I sure do. Then the last thing I'm going to do before I start to sew is I'm going to turn the hand wheel one time all the way around, and I'm going to bring that bobbin thread up, and you'll see that that thread grabbed my bobbin thread, and now I have both threads up on top, and I'm just going to put those to the back.
Now, how did you choose which thread and which needle to use?
Well, by the fabric that I'm using.
Okay.
Your threads and your needles will be specific to the type of project that you're doing and the fabrics that you're using. There are needles that are heavier duty for denim and canvas and heavy woven fabrics, and there are needles that have a ballpoint if you're using a stretchy fabric or a fabric with some elastic in it.
Are you using an all-purpose thread, and is it something special for a machine?
This is an all-purpose sewing thread, and it's appropriate for a wide range of woven and knit fabrics, as well as the all-purpose needle that I have in my machine.
Or you could use rayons or decorative stitches or things when you get into more fancy sewing.
Right. We also have a selection of threads in front of us, some metallics and some decorative stitch threads.
Okay,
some
so
rayons.
now, are we ready to sew?
We are ready to sew. We take our project, and our needle plate has markings on each side. That's going to help me to feed my fabric straight and also to get the right size seam.
Okay.
And so as soon as I put that under, I just lowered my presser foot.
And we're doing a straight stitch.
And we're doing a straight stitch. And that's how easy it is to get ready, to get set, and to sew.
Now, when we practice, do we practice with fabric or do we practice with paper? Or
I found that it's really a lot easier to feel comfortable with the machine. If you take a piece of lined notebook paper and don't put your thread in, just sew with your needle and go right through, staying on those lines, because that's going to give you practice guiding without ruining any fabric or getting anything tangled up.
And you brought a couple great samples. This is made out of you said the leg of the jeans?
The leg of the
recycled.
jeans, recycled. And this is a straight stitch. That's all we used on there.
Fleece, which
Fleece
is so easy.
with a decorative stitch.
And lastly, the scarf, it's got something really interesting. How did you make that?
Well, instead of replacing the needle with another type of a needle, I used a double needle, and you'll see it just has one shaft up at the top, but it has 2 needles. That's what this extra spool pin's for.
Well, and fleece is great for beginners because you don't have to have any seams. Or
you don't have to finish the edges.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Jill is going to be right back with us just a little bit later in the show, and we are going to start sewing. After school is a great time for a party, and we're going to make these paper lanterns today out of marbleized paper. So let's get started. First, you're going to need some textured cardstock, watercolors in regular colors and metallics. Then we need some basic supplies, paper towels, an empty 2-liter bottle, ribbon in your color choice, a glue pen, hole punch, pencil, and some very sharp scissors. So our first step is to work with our plastic 2-liter bottle. We're actually going to only use this section. So what you want to use some very sharp scissors, and you might want some adult supervision, and you're going to poke into the 2-liter bottle and cut around. All the way around, and you're going to cut the top off and the bottom off. Now don't worry if it's not perfectly even, because when you get it all done, you'll be able to trim it and make it perfectly straight. So I'm going to set that aside because I have one ready here. Now it's time to punch holes. I'm going to take my hole punch, and I'm going to punch holes about, every ½ inch. Now you can use a ruler or you can just kind of estimate it. So I'm going to go all the way around. It's not important if they're not exactly perfect. You just want to make sure that they're nice and even. And I'm going to go all the way around the top and all the way around the bottom. Then we'll set that aside. Now we're going to make our marbleized paper. I've laid down some paper towels so that we have a nice soft surface, and I've put my cardstock on top. Now you're going to be using a 12 by 12 sheet, but here I'm just using an 8 by 8 so you can see it easier. Now we're going to start with our colors. Now if you can see on the watercolor set. They're in the order of color theory. So they're going from red, orange, yellow, red and yellow make orange. Now I'm going to start out with my lightest color first because I don't want these to blend in too much together. I want them to be blocks of color. Now I've put a couple drops of water into each of the colors just to let them soften up a little because we're going to get such bright, vibrant colors. So I'm going to start with yellow and I'm going to make a big block of yellow. Let's make another one to the other side. Then I want to clean it off, clean my brush off really, really well. Next I'm going to go in green. And I don't want to really get the colors too muddy. I want to have them each be distinct. So I'm going to do green. And we'll add another green here. And we'd continue all the way down our color box until we have all the colors of the rainbow on here. I'm going to set this aside, and I've got one that I already did that has all the colors on. Now the next step is to add metallics on top. Again, I've already added a little bit of water, and you want to put the same metallic color over the corresponding regular color. And you could have started out with just the metallics, but I like the effect of having the two colors. So I'm going to put a metallic yellow here. Dip my brush in again, clear that off, and let's put the orange in the middle. Again, I'm swirling the brush around and picking up lots of color. These are very, very intense colors. And I'd go through each one of these sections until they're all covered and it has that nice metallic look on top. I've got one here that's all completed, and I've gone over each of the color blocks. Now I'm going to take my pattern piece, which you can find on the website, and I'm going to cut these out. I'm going to need 5 to go around the whole piece. So I can lay these out, trace them with my pencil, and keep every one of those scraps, because when you're done, we're going to use those scraps to cut the other little shapes. You're going to need 2 complete sheets of color to do this project. Once we've got that, we can cut that out, and I've got one cut out. I'm going to fold it in half, and then I'm going to accordion fold from the center out. So I'm going to go back, making each step even, or each fold even. And it doesn't matter how narrow or thick you make them, so that's on one side, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side. That way it's all radiating from the center. And you'd continue on. I've got one folded here. Now the next step is we want to punch holes at the end. So we're going to punch 3 holes at each one of these, the same distance away we did on our plastic. 3 at this end and 3 at the other. And now it's time to start assembling. I've threaded a 24-inch length of ribbon through my big eye needle, and I'm going to go through 3 holes, and then I'm going to attach this on. Let me take the one that's already set, and I'm going to bring this around. Oops, I'm going to go through the first hole instead. So I turn that around. So go into the first hole, and that's going to attach, and I'm going to match this up and go 1 up and then up this 3rd one so that that's attached. Then I continue going on all the way around the top. I'm skipping 3 holes in between each one and then attaching all of them. Then I do the same thing on the bottom. Then I'm going to take my extra ribbon that I've cut from the beginning, and I'm going to make ties on it. So that will hold it on. And then remember those little scraps that we talked about? Those are going to be glued on with a glue pen. It's important to use something that will adhere both to the plastic and to the paper. Now, complete instructions to finish this are on the website. With me is Jill Felix. She's back because we have this great backpack tote. And you told me it's made from a recycled t-shirt. This is great.
Yes, any old worn out t-shirt, a t-shirt that you don't want to wear anymore, you can use to create this bag.
Okay, great. How do we get started?
Well, we're going to lay our t-shirt out flat. And then all I did was I took my scissors and I cut the sleeves off and I cut the neckline off.
Now it can be any size t-shirt too?
It can be any size t-shirt. What's nice is even if you have a child's t-shirt, you can make just a smaller bag. It's the same process no matter what size your t-shirt is. And then I took the scissors and I cut the bottom off, and I left about 2 inches on there.
Okay,
we're going to use this. We're going to use this later, so we don't want to throw that away. The other pieces we could throw away. Then I have left the body of the t-shirt, and I'm going to use that to make the squares I need to make the bag. So what I did was I made a square about 18 inches, and that's this square, and this is the extra that I cut off. So we're just going to get rid of that as well.
Pieces?
After I get my squares cut, I take an iron-on fusible interfacing because your t-shirt material is very, very stretchy.
Oh, so it won't stretch out.
This keeps, when I put something in that bag, I don't want it to stretch out. So this keeps it from stretching out. Then remember the ribbing that I gave you?
I saved that.
Okay. Well, what you're going to do is you're going to cut that into 2 pieces, and you're going to cut it about 1 inch smaller than the length of your square.
Oh, 1 inch smaller, okay.
So that you leave a 1/2 inch on each side, and then you just pin that to the top of the square of your sweatshirt or your t-shirt. Okay? And
now we have do we still have the right sides up? This is the front still, right?
This is the front.
Okay.
So after we pin this, then we're going to sew it, and that's what I've done here.
Okay.
So I've sewn this together.
So we have a little casing at the top.
And that's where we're going to put our cording that you see in the top of the bag. But before we do that, we need to put the right sides together so that we can sew the sides and the bottom of our bag.
Because we're going to turn it inside out when we're done.
Yes.
Or right side out.
We're going to turn it right side out when we're done. And so that's what we'll get ready right here.
So we only need to know how to straight stitch to be able to make this bag.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
And we learned how to do that in one of our other lessons.
Right.
So all I have to do is lower my presser foot. I've selected the straight stitch. It's a good idea to put a couple pins in to hold in place so that your corner matches and your fabric doesn't shift. But you want to pin so that you can pull those pins out. So you just pin the edge, the raw edge, a couple of places.
Now, Hannah, what size seam are we going to make?
Well, on our stitch plate, we have a 5/8 inch marking, and so that's the size seam that we're going to sew this.
Now, can you sew right over those needles, or over the pins?
Nope, that's why we pin them like this, because
So we
right
can pull
before
it
it
out.
gets to the foot, you wouldn't want the needle hitting that. If you have needles that hit your pins, it's going to dull the needle, and then it won't do a nice job for you. So all I'm doing is following my line. When I come to the pin, I'm going to just pull it out and put it in my pin ball.
So you're just stepping on it underneath, stepping on your foot pedal, and that's causing it to sew.
And I told you 5/8, I meant 3/8. I made a mistake there.
So we're doing a small seam.
We're doing a small seam.
Uh-oh, we're coming to a corner now.
We're coming to a corner. All I have to do is take my hand wheel and put the needle down, lift my presser foot, and just pivot my fabric around. Isn't that easy?
Oh, that's not a problem at all.
And then I'm just going to put a couple pins in just to hold my seam. And this would be the bottom of the bag.
So we're going to make a bag in about 5 minutes.
A bag in 5. We sure will. Remember to pull your pin out. And you notice I'm not having to pull my fabric or push it through. The feed dogs do all the work.
Okay, so now we would continue sewing all the way around 3 of the sides, leaving that top open. And then what's next?
The next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn the bag right side out.
Oh, good. So now we can see that symbol again from our t-shirt.
There's the symbol of our t-shirt right here. Here's our casing up at the top.
Okay.
All right. And of course, if we finished, we would have 4 finished sides. The bottom corner is where our little grommet goes.
And grommets are so easy to put in because you just pound those in.
Right, and
They're a
this
little
is the
kit.
grommet right here. And there's a little grommet kit.
And you can just pound it right
And
in by placing
these are
it.
the pieces that you get in your grommet kit. One piece goes on the bottom, one on the top, and then you just use a little hammer and you pound that, and it comes, it looks
and then just
like
run
that.
our cords through. We'll run the cord through the top, through the side, and there's our backpack. Thanks, Jill.
You're welcome.
Hope you'll never be bored after school again. Next time, Hands On is back in the classroom and specifically in math class. Join us for projects with some extra added learning next time on Hands On.
Projects from today's show plus other ideas are available on the web at craftsforkids.com. This is program 1108. Hands On is sponsored in part by Elmer's Products, Inc., manufacturers of a variety of adhesives, arts and crafts, and office products for use at home, school, or business for over 60 years. www.elmers.com. Dixon Ticonderoga. Our colors, their world. www.dixonusa.com.